There are two specific things I'd like to talk about in order to set up the context to our very special session today. One is that any community of service providers can always benefit from support of their own. And it follows, I feel, as a natural corollary that those who provide support, in fact, need it the most. Because I'm not a therapist myself, I conveniently give myself the liberty of making certain politically incorrect statements. And I can't even imagine that when a psychologist listens to or is at the receiving end of trauma dumping the entire day, what impact that has on that professional's own psychology uh, has to be profound, even if one is very good at having compartmentalized life and built certain boundaries professionally. We are at the end of the day talking about human beings and emotions and feelings and sentiments, and it is bound to unconsciously or consciously affect a person. The reason I share this is because we are being joined today by the co founders and creators of Mindfully Yours. And as the name suggests, it's a wonderful community in service of the support community. And we'll be briefly, at least, discussing why they came to be. And the second point I wanted to make was that although there is a lot of value and merit to the perspective that clinicians, doctors, psychiatrists, and psychologists bring to any area of mental illness, to any condition, I think that it is equally, if not more important, to also get insights from people who have had lived experience, because it is when those two sort of pillars of information and insight come together that one has a deep, meaningful, and holistic understanding of something. And it so happens that the three creators and pillars of Mindfully Yours have had personal, very, very intimate and close experiences with neurodivergence. And I must, at the very outset, commend them because the idea of this theme came from them. And it's one of the most difficult and courageous things in the world to come onto a public platform and share those insights completely in service of increasing that understanding. So we're very grateful that Dia, Nishtha, and Raina, who are joining us today, have not only agreed but suggested this in the first place, because we're going to delve into neurodivergence, but very importantly, what it is like for them at very, very close and intimate quarters. We are calling this session of talk therapy the grass and thorns of neurodivergence. This is Driveway Devi, and I'm Karthik on behalf of Driveway Devi, and I would like to extend a warmest welcome to Dia, Nishtha, and Raina, and thank them for making the time, coordinating so many schedules, and joining us here. All right, ladies, we would love to begin by understanding a little bit about the genesis of Mindfully Yours and in its current avatar, its reason for being there and what you guys are trying to do with it and some of the activities that you've been doing under the umbrella of Mindfully Yours.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Diya Sharan, and I am the founder of Mindfully Yours, Nishtha being the co founder, and Raina is the creative head. So, I started off Mindfully Yours with the aim that I owe it to society. We all are so passionate about psychology, and we thought that we need to do something to give and to help the individuals to reach to the audience out there, and spread awareness about mental health and about psychology. And then when we dived deep into it, we realized that there's so many people who are not belonging to this field, but they are so enthusiastic and passionate about it, willing to learn more about it, willing to learn about mental health. So it was so wonderful. So we thought that, okay, why not maybe start through tuitions, teach students at an affordable rate, because usually tuitions are expensive. And we also believed that it is they will be able to connect emotionally with us because of being closer in age, and also because we've had that exposure to psychology. We've finished our degrees and everything, and even job wise. uh, and gradually we thought like we have to expand as well. So maybe rather than just the students, we thought let's reach to the youth there and to people of all ages through workshops. We've conducted like a good 10 to 11 workshops so far, and it's been a huge success. Every time we've done tried and been better and better every time, coming up with different ideas, like related to music therapy, art, and even matchmaking using psychology or different psychological theories. So, yes.
Wonderful. That sounds amazing. Would any of you like to add anything to what Dia has said?
Okay. Hi, guys. Co-founder here. Thank you so much, Dia, for explaining our vision from 2 years ago, I guess. It's been 2 years now. Yeah. So 2 years ago, the vision that we had, and just two silly girls who had no idea what to do, studying away psychology, and thought that why not? Why don't we do something better than what we are getting? That was the main goal. That right of like, of course, we were getting teachers teaching us from the textbook, but why can't we provide people a better way to learn psychology? And of course, it started with classes, and then we expanded to workshops, because both of these mediums we thought were a good way to teach people in a more in like, better and improved way. So, and then came Raina. She's also one of our friends. She's our creative head, because she was always filled with creativity, and we thought ki, both, just the two of us cannot possibly come up with such creative ideas that Raina can. So all of the creative outlet things were handled by Raina, from reels to how to market, what can we do, what is going to be the internals of the workshop, what are the facets we can add, all of that. So things were like, things were smooth. The three of us are, friends since we were young. So mindfully or somewhat has our all of our essences, like little bit of our special place about psychology. All three of us love psychology. All three of us know the importance of other people also knowing about psychology, whether it's your degree or not. And we know that it can be a very creative outlet for people to, channel their demons or channel their harsh negative energy in the best possible way. Yeah, I think over to Raina. You want to talk about how you have liked working with us?
Sure. So I think since the fact that we've been friends for so long, and as it's like a little business venture that we have, and it's very empowering to think to talk about this, that three best friends coming together to create something, and actively do something for the community, and create a community which supports mental health. And I think we need that in this time, especially after COVID. I've noticed that there is a lot of this loneliness epidemic that's going around, and I think there's definitely more scope and more importance now more than ever. For, of course, now COVID is like an on and off thing, and things have come back offline, but then I feel like mental health is still important, and a lot of times we just tend to push things down and sort of, okay, ho jayega, we'll figure it out. But then when we as mindfully yours come in, we our unique selling point is that we provide these engaging workshops that are refreshing for the mind, because majority of the people that have come in for our workshops and our events too, the matchmaking events, majority of them are like corporate, burnt out corporate mazdoors who don't want to do anything to this thing. They want something fun, like they want something that is getting them away from that stress and that anxiety of work pressures and family pressures and everything else combined. So I think so far, yes, of course, we have always sat down and done an analysis of what went wrong, what didn't go wrong. But at the end of the day, the point is that we see people, like, there are all smiles at the end of the day. Like, everyone who comes to our workshops have always had a positive thing. Majority of them have had positive things to say about us and the event and the idea that we're bringing out. So definitely, I think, I mean, I'm very grateful to be a part of this organization, and especially to work with my best friends. It's really amazing, it's really fun. We keep bouncing off on each other, our conversations with a lot of banter, and in between we have our work, and it's really good. And yeah, I'm just really happy to be part of this, and just always, like, whenever there's an event, we are always brainstorming, and we're always like finding different things that, oh, we can do it like that, okay, let's do this, okay, let's make this decor. We've also created decor for our events, and that's like really fun. So, the fact that we're building everything from scratch and we're trying to work it out as three youngsters, I think it's quite a good thing, and we should applaud ourselves for that.
All three of you have brought very, very important and different perspectives to what Mindfully Yours is all about. And I suspect that just the way the three of you articulated that so differently, yet in a complementary manner, is pretty much how you combine as a trifecta when you're planning your events and interventions. I have a few very quick thoughts that I must share. One is that something very significant, I think Dia mentioned, was about this age thing. Now, it's not, I'm not an ageist. My point being that because I do teach and I understand and appreciate this tragic fact that in most scenarios, teaching scenarios and learning scenarios, the teacher is, in fact, a couple of generations senior to the learners. There is an automatic distance that gets induced in that relationship. And it's not, while it is important to respect and have a sanctity in that dynamic, it can also be a little bit, alienating at times. I am very, very lucky and privileged that in a lot of cases, I escape that because for some inexplicable reason, quite a few of my students don't see me as the typical teachers that they tend to have at their respective schools and colleges. But it's very important, that point you made about being of a younger demographic yourself when you are teaching. I think things are understood and digested and imbibed in a much more effective manner. The other thought I had was that the only non-therapist amongst you trifecta, unsurprisingly, had the most uncensored and unguarded response, which was Raina. But again, the three of you seem to bring very different sort of layers to this whole endeavor, and it's just wonderful that the work you're doing is something that you're clearly very passionate about. Now, I want to sort of jump straight into the world of neurodivergence, and just quickly preface that by saying that as you guys are aware, as I'm aware, and as I think most of our audience, even though they may be quote unquote lay people such as myself, there is a certain awareness that when it comes to individuals who are neurodivergent, there are several barriers and perceptions that exist in society. They can range from a certain amount of stigma and shame. They extend to certain very hard realities of an infrastructure which is quite deficit, whether it comes to their education and things of that nature. Because the three of you have had and continue to have such close observations of neurodivergence, I want to begin by asking each of you, in your understanding, what are some of the main sort of impediments or hurdles or obstacles or challenges nowadays in terms of just creating a certain conducive atmosphere and environment? I'm
Okay.
not going to be a teacher and say, okay, now
Yeah,
you go first.
I'll begin. Dia and Raina both looking at me like, do say something. Anyways, yeah, so okay. I will start off by saying that all three of us have had experiences with neurodivergent individuals from how, like, it's not even from like a faraway lens, it's literally right beside us. It's a part of us. It has been a part of us since we were kids. And like when I got introduced to these two were already friends, and both of them have siblings who have like who are autistic. They are autistic, and I did not know that. When I came into the group, we were very little, but these two have grown up learning how to be sensitive and soft to their siblings and how to understand them. So when I came into the group, I was told by these two that, oh, this is a thing. And I was like, oh wow, like what do I do, what not? And they had coached me through it all, and they were very nice, very sweet. And I hope both of their brothers do love me and don't see me as like an obstacle. But yeah, I try to. So that was my first interaction with someone who has neurodivergence, and that was two of
Nishta,
my best
I'm
friends.
terribly sorry. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
interrupting you because I think I have a valid question, which
Continue.
will also help us get a better understanding of how these things tend to work.
Yeah.
Uh, how soon after you got to know these two ladies or you were introduced to them, did they sort of orient you? Because, in certain cases, when one is wary of a certain situation in one's life, it may be anything. At times you can be very upfront about it, and at times you can wait for a significant period of time.
Yeah, so I think both of them did wait for a while to introduce. Like we were kids. We wanted, and I think in some way, Raina and Dia want their personality to be their own first, and like they want people to get to know them first before introducing them to the family, because it's like it's like you're not just introducing your brother, you're introducing a person, and then you're giving them a guide on how to behave in front of that person as well. Whereas for them, for both of them, you get to choose. You have your own opinion on how you get to behave with them. So with me, it was like, yeah, I think we waited. It just randomly came up in conversation that, oh, do you guys have siblings? Because I have a sibling too. So yeah, this that, and then they told me about it, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I met them, and I was very fascinated. I don't know, I used to be very annoying and ask a lot of questions that, oh, how does this work, how does that work, do they understand this, do they understand that? And they were very well informed about it. They knew exactly what, and they at the best part is, it's not like they mind the questions. They do not mind the questions. It's like you better ask questions rather than do something wrong or say something wrong, and like assume something wrong and then say apologize later. Because the person you are apologizing to, it's not their brothers who would get hurt, it's them. Because it's like,
In fact, I think that not only is it a clear signal of, not only is it something that works in a preventative manner, it's
yeah.
also a clear signal of how invested you are as a friend with their
Exactly.
lives.
Yeah. So, and then I was a very big supporter of that as well. Every time I would be like, yeah, you have to behave like this, you have to say this, you cannot say that. And we just incorporated ourselves into that environment. of growing up with these two who had siblings with autism, and learned more and more and more and more about this thing. These two were learning firsthand. I was learning through books. I was learning through them. Like I always say that my first ever encounter to psychology would possibly be these two. And then obviously Dia is older, so she started studying psychology first. And Rana and I were confused little girls, don't know what to do, what to take, what to do in college. But somehow something happened, and three of us just chose psychology. And I guess it made sense. Raina is saying no, but yeah, you had music psychology. Yeah. So we just chose psychology, and it has brought us here to Mindful Yours. And we're very, very vocal about how you're supposed to deal. Not even deal. It's not deal. How you're supposed to be in front of someone who has autism. Raina's brother has come to one of our workshops as well, and the best part is people can't just look and understand, because he is very highly functioning. He's very highly functioning. He's very good at it. He did everything. He had a lot of fun. We had a lot of, like, I mean, yeah, obviously, as you said, the wariness that comes with introducing, she was very before. She was like, are you sure? Because I'll be organizing. Is it going to be easy? Is it going to be? And then Dia and I were like, don't worry, we will deal with it. We will organize, and we will also give him an environment where he can be himself and do what he wants to do. And she was very happy seeing him enjoying and drawing and talking to the other people, showing them his drawings and asking. It was an art workshop, so it was all drawing based, and he was doing a lot of things. And she was very happy. She left in a very happy mood, because she got to see him, be very in a very chill mode, and no one was like looking at him or giving him weird stares, or like asking us, ki, oh, is this okay? Or getting disturbed by him, basically. Which is the first, I think, very thing that these two girls always have, that, people might get disturbed by their presence, because they are used to it. Doesn't mean other people will be. But once, you when you support them, and when you know that it's not disturbing, it's just they can't express themselves the way we can, then then you understand that they are actually very vocal about things that they're feeling, but it's just not in the language that we speak.
I think you inadvertently raised a couple of very important points. Ek to, I think it's a universal truth that anything, and I'm not referring even to human beings, anything in life that seems a touch different from
Yeah.
any kind of status quo presents with a certain amount of, I don't know,
Challenges.
suspicion or wariness. I mean,
Yeah.
that's only natural. The other thing is that I'm glad you, obviously, you of all people, would not think that ever, and you withdrew the term deal, because to me, the emotion doesn't even enter the equation, because it's really just down to awareness. It's just matter of fact, really. And the fact is that there isn't enough propagation and proliferation of the facts. And the moment there is, and I'm still one of those old men who's not, that cynical yet. And I do believe still that there is more goodness and innate intrinsic goodness in us human beings than there is negative. And with that certain amount of basic education and information, that most people will be more than happy. And I don't think most people will be sort of negatively predisposed or even wary. Hmm. Okay. What about the other two then?
So, well, for me, my older brother, he's 5 years older to me. And you know how there is a spectrum, just to mention, some people probably would not know, but autism is a spectrum from mild, moderate to severe. So it's, I don't want to label here, but yes, just for diagnosis purpose, he was diagnosed with moderate aspect of autism. And he is 29 currently, and he is in a vocational setting called Palanjali School. It's in Sona Road. So yeah, it's so lovely and so great that there are such setups which would encourage them, give them that self-esteem and confidence. and he actually genuinely enjoys it also. The special educators, they take him and other people also who are there with special needs, not just autism but also Down syndrome and other neurodivergent individuals, to camping trips or movies, and to give them that inclusion, to include them and accept them, so that the society also sees ki, okay, there are such individuals too, and it's important to treat them with kindness and acceptance. So initially, yes, growing up, I would not deny it. It was challenging because naturally I was confused. How most of us, we always complain that, oh, I wish I had a brother when you have a sister, or I wish I had a sister when you have a brother. So I was like, I wish I had a sister. But then gradually, when once I got to know him, and I learned that, my story is different. Everyone's story is different. So this is mine. And I learned so much from him, like resilience and kindness, empathy. So from a very young age, Raina and I were always very empathetic. Um, and naturally, because our environment was like that. Yes.
Raina?
Yes, so for me also, like, so my brother, his name is Rahul, and he is 6 years older than me. So I'm 1 year younger than Dia, but our brothers are the same age. And in my case, like in Rahul's case, he was diagnosed pretty young. So, like, the early interventions was what worked for him. Definitely. Of course, initially, before anything else, my mom tried various things. Like, I mean, I will say it, like, she's gone to those babas who have those like black jadoo or whatever and doing all that weird stuff as well. So, I mean, because at that time there was not much awareness. So she tried a lot of, ways to like figure out and try to understand how to take care of him and what would he need basically. So all of these things came up, and then then I mean there was not as much research of course at that time as well, so even the awareness was not, and they were always considered, people who have autism had been considered as, oh, like, he's just like, like that only, just leave him, let him just be isolated. And like, I mean, my mother felt that it was important to integrate him into the mainstream setup. So initially, of course, there was like, he had gone to an like a school, like there's a school called Samar for like in Mumbai. We were in Mumbai before. And he had gone to a couple of these like, institutes and stuff like Palavanchali, but then it started becoming clear that it was more advised. It was advised, like more advisable to send him to a mainstream setup where he would be interacting with neurotypical people, and being able to understand how the neurotypical environment works basically. Of course, some social cues are a bit hard to understand for him, so some things have to be actively explained. I think that is one important aspect when it comes to like creating a creating an environment where where he is explained why. Because sometimes there are a lot of these unspoken truths, unspoken words, unspoken rules rather in society, which some of us are able to understand and we don't speak about it. But sometimes people with autism, they want it to be exactly like they want to have that on the spot, like tell us everything, like A to Z. There's no like, don't expect me to read between the lines. They want us to be direct, which is a very good, they're very direct, very honest, I feel. At least whatever I've experienced. So, like with my brother and other individuals as well. So that's something. And of course, trying to understand the way they communicate, because and the fact that they can't communicate many times, because there have been times in the past before my brother was diagnosed that what he was just 1.5 years or 1 year old, where he would just stare at a beaker of water. He would, it's like he's looking at it, but he's just not able to express that he wants to drink it, or to even ask my mother, can you please give it to me, or I'm thirsty. So, or even pointing to it, like none of that. And then a lot of signs, symptoms came up that, he would stare out, he would talk to himself, all of that came up. And then, of course, these interventions, and then going into transferring to like mainstream setups. And I would say, like, the environment, many environments that he's been in, especially the mainstream setups, have not been very kind to him. And it's hard. It's very hard. That is something which I guess my parents did not fathom as much. But later on, he came up and told us instances where he was abused and where he was, made fun of or bullied. Even in college, he has been, this thing. So I think sensitivity is very important. Like we have already discussed, awareness is what is needed for the general public. But more important than anything, actively trying to engage and try to understand their needs and be patient. That is, being patient is very important, whether you're a caregiver, whether you're a sibling or a teacher or an instructor. It's very important to be patient, and it'll take time for them to open up. But you have to keep actively trying to keep that connection. So that's all I guess I have to say.
I mean, those are all absolutely invaluable points. And of course, as the three of you, certainly much more than me, understand that these discussions are almost infinite. I mean, there are so many millions of thoughts bombarding my mind, and I'm trying to, in my extremely limited wisdom, curate just a few more critical questions, particularly from a layperson standpoint, that people with very, very intimate experiences the way you guys have had will be able to bring value to. And in doing that, I might ask you seemingly unkind questions, but please keep in mind that I'm asking them because they're very close to the ground reality and perception, and it is my task to play devil's advocate. Now, um, I thought initially that we'd talk about early detection, etc., but I'm going to deprioritize that. I think you would agree that in a lot of families, and I'm not even talking directly of the parents, but in our families, and since in any case, Indian families tend to be larger than IPL teams, in a lot of Indian families, in extended family, when there is a neurodivergent child, there is a lot of shaming, judging, labeling, etc., that takes place. Along with that, also comes many other perceptions that are facets of that same coin, which is, oh my God, now this is going to be a lifelong liability. Oh my God, this, and oh my God, that. So I want you to comment on this. Um, is it the case, and can we even broadly generalize that if in one's family there is a neurodivergent individual, that it's pretty much a given that that person will need some kind of a sort of assistance and help lifelong, and that from a family's perspective, ultimately there will be more in terms of investment required rather than that individual being able to yield at least at after a certain stage of their life.
Okay, so I'll talk about this. As much as and like we've all talked about how Dia and Raina have grown up with it, but then I somewhat chose this field. I chose to work with people because I saw the injustice that they go through in society, and I realized that it's not really, it's not valid, right? And so I did this 1 year like job with closely with a fourth grader, neurodivergent autistic child. She was also the same level as Rahul, diagnosis wise, and there was early detection. Of course, parents tried everything to make it go away or to fix it, to solve it, but it's the reality. And the point is that, yeah, so like we study everything we possibly can in school, but why can't we, why we they never teach us these things, that, oh, there, if there's a neurodivergent in school, okay, maybe not in school, in your society, or if you meet some neurodivergent individual, what are you supposed to do? So it's a very big question mark. So the problem is then now the parents, the family, and everyone are alone in dealing with what they're going to talk to society about and how they're going to impart, how to behave with my like son or daughter to the society. Because society is going to give hundreds of questions. Why is he not like this? Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? He's embarrassing us. He cannot come here. He cannot come there. And the worst part is they blame the mom and the dad. Oh, maybe you conceived too late. Oh, maybe the mother was not taking enough nutrition. Oh, like your like the pregnancy time was not healthy, was not good. So then it creates a very big frustration on the parents as well, where they are all like so many questions are being bombarded at them. Then they are honestly thinking that, was it my fault? Did I do something? Because at the end of the day, they are humans too. The fourth graders girl I used to teach in Lotus Valley International School. She was so basically, as Raina said, putting them in the mainstream setting is very important. Otherwise, if you keep them at home, they will never know how to behave, how to act, and
Huh,
it's not like
I'm
yeah,
going to quickly interrupt because, of course, as Raina had mentioned it earlier, and now you're also mentioning and sort of corroborating the same thing, and it's come up in context. It's a super cliche question, but I remember bringing it to you guys even when we were chatting about this discussion of ours. That it can be so counterproductive. Now, my own daughter, for example, goes to an alternative school, and because it's an alternative school, which is in any case a more mindful space than other traditional legacy schools, and
yeah,
because it is populated with very, very modest and small population sizes in each classroom, it was easy, and it occurred to the management that before the intake of the neurodivergence into their respective sections and classes, that there was a certain amount of orientation and sensitization that took place, which most of the time doesn't happen at regular school.
exactly. So that's why that's what I was saying. I was getting it was very important because mostly like this whole school integration with neurodivergent individuals is very, very, very recent. Very recent. When Rana and Dia were growing up, their families did not have the opportunity of sending their brothers to the same school they were studying in. But now, if it was in now scenario, I think they would have had that opportunity where their brothers could have attended school with them. And yeah, fine, of course there's a whole different set of challenges with them coming to a normal neurotypical school, attending like classes with neurotypical children, because they obviously do not have the same focus level, they do not have the same same sort of understanding of the courses like the other children. They cannot sit still, they'll have other they'll have a lot of demands, they'll have a lot of things that you have to deal with. So for that, sensitivity training is obviously very important, which we had in Lotus Valley as well, because there was only one child in the class, but the entire class loved interacting with her, because they were told that she is not different, she just has different needs, she just understands the world on a different level than you do. And they loved interact because they're young, kids, they're very honest, they're young. And honestly, they used to come up with me also, ki ma'am, why is she doing this, or ma'am, why is she doing that? You explain it to them and they will honestly not judge you. The main judgment comes from the adults in the society. The kids will never judge you. And if you impart these sort of important knowledge to them when they're kids, then growing up, they will be the ones fighting for a neurodivergent individuals, that, treat them like this. They are not different. Stop treating them differently. And even to the teacher, like basically, okay, I told you the student instance. Let me come to the teacher perspective. So, of course, the student could not focus for a long time, could not, like, did not feel like writing. I'm not going to force her, obviously. So we used to go out on walks, come back, and of course continue what we are going at. She needs a bit of distraction, sure, but the teacher's always like, no, she cannot leave this, that. They had no, there's zero sensitivity to the topic. And then I had to explain to them that, ma'am or sir, she is not going to be able to do what you expect of neurotypical children. I'm not going to scold her, I'm not going to hit her, I'm not going to punish her outside the class. Nothing is going to come out of it. And then slowly, of course, throughout the year, I think they became a little bit more perceptive to how to behave with her. And yeah, so it's very important to integrate, not just have sensitivity training for the children. They are very fast learners when it comes to this, but also teach the people, the teachers, the principals, the coaches, the sports coaches, and everyone, that they are not, they cannot be taught the way you're teaching the other. They'll have a, and you need patience. Raina and Dia both said you need patience. You cannot lose your patience. You cannot send them out of the class. You cannot shout at them. You cannot yell at them that learn this, or why did you make a mistake. You cannot do any of that. You need to be very patient. So yeah, like in Lotus Valley, they integrated the whole point of shadow, a shadow psychologist or a shadow teacher working with the child full time in class. That's a good way. But yeah, how long is the child going to use that as a crutch, right? How long is the shadow teacher going to follow the child around? Cannot happen throughout school or college, not possible. So maybe for the initial years, like impart that, but then moving on, have give the neurodivergent child the opportunity to adjust in a neurotypical environment, and also give the neurotypical children an opportunity to adjust with a neurodivergent in their environment. So both ways integration.
Absolutely. No, you bring up critical points. Of course, I've latched on to that sentence you said. Why are you making a mistake? I think I can write a book on that. Whether it's because it's so tragically embedded in our culture, the not being allowed to make a mistake, whether it's neurotypical, whether it's whatever scenario or setting. Only in the interest of time, instead of having each of you respond to each question, we'll just, one take each. I have my final two questions. What So one, I suppose, facet of life in our country or in our culture is something that I asked you about, which has things to do with the judgment and quote unquote ye normal nahi hai oho type of attitude. The second sort of facet to this, what seems to be a key building block of society, is how will the vansh carry on, like, marriage, kids, etc. So that's the second sort of thing that I want one of you to address vis-a-vis neurodivergence and the possibilities and chances of there being a family construct and children and things of that nature.
So I would like to say about this that yes, definitely parents have this huge worry, what after us, you know, and my mother, she's part of this social community support network called Sathi. So that has really helped her a lot. That they keep having these discussions, in terms of finances, because the reality is that they are also dependent on the parents. They will always be and financially, or you know even in terms of other things. So they have to look into options like residential homes, or where there will be, of course, they will be left with the right people. Many people might think it's abandonment, but that's not the case. In fact, they love to be around people like them. I have observed that within my own brother only. Because he feels happier that, okay, there is someone like me, otherwise, because I've seen that when my brother, he was in my school, in Vasant Valley school, but because after a point of time from sixth grade onwards, he saw that he started feeling that, no, I'm different, and he started saying, no, go school, no, go to school, you know so since then we realized that, no, he needs to be with individuals like him, and special educators who can actually be extra patient and kind to them. uh, so yes, definitely that is a huge concern amongst parents, but that's what I would like to say, that these support groups would really help.
And
So
also,
any
Dia, if I'm understanding you correctly, just to draw an analogy to sort of make this even more crystal clear, it would perhaps be a similar way in which, for the moment at least, because again of our cultural context and conditioning, the way we view, perhaps moving our parents or grandparents into an assisted living facility, where you're actually doing it with all the sincerest and best intentions and their care at heart. But it will be, for some time still, I think, in our country, perceived as abandonment.
I'd
Yeah.
actually like to add something here along. I mean, yes, definitely that this, having this space where they get to live on their own and survive, or learn how to, not, I wouldn't say survive, yeah, I mean, learn how to manage some things on their own. Now, there are different people, with autism who can handle different things. So some may need assistance with simple things like having a bath. Some can take bath on their own, or something as simple as that. Or say, so they may need someone to help them out with the food aspect. Maybe they are not able to cook as much. Maybe they can cook. Maybe they need a bit of assistance with them, because a lot of people with autism have issues with their motor skills and stuff. So I would say, of course, just drawing a little parallel to what Dia said about her brother. So in my case, like in Rahul's case, he actually regresses when he is around people of the same, like who have autism and all. I've noticed this, and I think every child is unique at the end of the day. So, the approach is definitely, required to, we need to tailor our understanding and not just look at it from a general lens that, okay, this is what is best for him. So now when it comes to like family, marriage and things, um, it's something that has to be talked about, because we can't expect them to stay as a child forever. Like, we can't treat them like a child. We should not be treating them like a child. They are also human beings, like Nishtha has mentioned, and they also crave love. I'm sure they create a lot of crave a lot of, they have that sense of belonging. They have that love. It's very obvious. And I've also heard of, like, people who are on the spectrum or who are Down syndrome, they're getting married and they're having a job, they're very happy with their life, and it's a very simplistic sort of idea. I think they have it's very innocent. Either their demeanor is very innocent and very naive, but that does not make them a child, because they have these needs and it's very valid. And that, I think they need to get more, like, need to be explained, or of course all these things. And then as a family, or try to engage them in more social events, or like gradually introduce them to places where they can mingle. Of course, there could be just like, meetups with others on the spectrum, and it could be like that. Or that is, I think that is something which maybe we could have another discussion another time. But or it would be somebody, in like a neurotypical setting, like that mainstream setup, and neurotypical neurodivergent joining. So I think that there are a lot of different combinations that can be thought about. But most, I think I'll just stress on the fact that it's very important to acknowledge that they have these needs. And yeah, that's basically the
But
bottom
I
line
think the
of it.
point that you were making, which is again very, very important, is the fact that there is simply no generalizing this. It is so individual to individual and case to case. In fact, you happen to be talking to someone who I take issue to basically any kind of standardization. I can't even go into a chain restaurant, forget about anything else. So completely take your point. Extremely valid. My absolute final question, also because we always like to sort of at least conclude our sessions on a note where there's some practical takeaway for people who are listening and watching. And I think, again, I shared this with you guys earlier. Uh, every now and again, I have parents walking in, bringing their child or their children for my classes. But I then notice, to me, either in some cases it seems very obvious, in others I feel it may be a possibility that an individual is on some kind of spectrum of neurodivergence. And there are, again, because we are such a complex, diverse country, there are different stages of evolution that cities, towns, states are in, where responses tend to range from denial on the part of the parents to just, again, sheer lack of knowledge and understanding. So, my question really is that when you have a ground reality where you're hearing things like, नहीं नहीं अरे उसको कुछ नहीं है वो सिर्फ चंचल है or whatever, what are some very, very basic sort of things to watch out for that particularly parents and school teachers, perhaps the two blocks that really oversee a child's development, can notice in order to for that individual to merit being seen by a professional and being assessed?
Well, in terms of autism, I can say at least for now, is if you observe that when you're talking to them, there is no eye contact. They're not able to give you eye contact. So that is one of the finest sign. And also giving instructions, and if they're not able to take those instructions, and you're telling them also to point there, and they're not able to do that as well.
Sorry,
Um,
when you say not able to take instruction, you mean understand or follow through with them?
Yes, understand and follow through, both of them. Uh, and yeah, you may observe them to be probably stimming and wanting to do activities repeatedly, like looking, if you give them flashcards also or something, so they'll just want to see that and again. Or they may even have light sensitivity or loud sound sensitivity. So these are some of the signs that is very, very important, I would say, to look.
Also, one more sign that we're taught and that I've also observed in my clinical hours as well is that like up to 12 months of like development for a child, they are expected to respond to their name. So the mother and father are told that you keep calling out their name again and again and see what the reaction is. Maybe they laugh, they look at you or something. But children with autism usually do not respond to their name even by 12 months, up to 12 months, and possibly for a long time. It takes them a long time to adapt to it rather than a neurotypical child would. And same thing goes in other stages of development as well. The other stage of development is also not like at par with neurotypical children. It takes time for them. Like suppose for example, like by 6 weeks, the children are supposed to be making facial expressions. They're supposed to be laughing, smiling, and doing that. But neurodivergent kids would usually do not do that. They do not respond to normal environmental things. In fact, you will mostly not understand what they're responding to because it could possibly be light sensitivity or sound sensitivity. For you the light seems normal, but for the child it's probably very harsh. So they might not, you will not understand why they're crying because there's no valid reason according to you. So that is also a sign to look out for.
Yeah, and there are a couple of other symptoms as well. Echolalia is a very important one that I'd like to point out because this is like a very telltale sign that yes, this the child might have traits of autism or something. That this should be like the immediate sign. Actually, that would be the sign that you would immediately think, okay, now it's the time for intervention because it's not normal to repeat the same thing that somebody's saying. So if I say, hi, how are you? Then the child would say, hi, how are you? Or what is your name? What is your name? Like repeating the same thing again and again, that's one thing. And when Nishtha and Dia have mentioned the light and sound sensitivity, I think it's not just that, it's also texture sensitivity. So all of that together combined is called sensory overload, which is basically a general feeling of overwhelm that a person who has autism has when there are way too many stimuli in the environment. And it's like, like for now I'm sitting in this room, there's an AC on, there are two lights on, there is I mean there is a fan sound somewhere outside, there's a bird outside, there's a dog barking outside. For me, I can, some of us, we can filter some of these sounds out and we can focus on what needs to be focused on. Now, for a person with autism, they would, notice this AC sound. It just sort of tuned up like 10 times, or I don't know how, like double the amount that we are. Like, they struggle
So it's
to put
amplified
that.
and
Yes,
magnified.
amplified, yes. And echolalia and sensory overload, yes. And generally, like talking to themselves, also another thing. Stimming can be anyway. It can be flapping of hands, it can be dancing, or like, walking around. There is also, I've heard that there are also internal monologues that happen. Of course, this is something and more of an implicit trait, which some people who are on the spectrum, they are able to talk about it, some are not. But yes, there is presence of those thoughts, repetitive thoughts again and again, that, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. And yes, one more, at least this was very, like initially with my brother, he was very particular about the orderliness and the tidiness of things, that he had to have his shoes in a specific order, the socks had to be in. He was not at all receptive to trying out new food, honestly. Like, he was, no, I need to eat my french fries, or I need to eat this thing, like. And that restaurant, it's like, they have certain attachment to certain places, certain food, and examples here to bring light. So, and of course, like, some, like as Nishtha mentioned, these, breakdowns or meltdowns that they would have, it could be due to any reason, could be something that's overwhelming them. And as parents, as siblings, as anyone who is interacting with a neurodivergent person who has autism, it's very important to look for these things in the environment. Okay, what is the possible thing that could be troubling them, and try your best to calm them down, instead of shunning them, that how can you be like this, how you're making a fool out of yourself. So that judgment also could be something that they might internalize, or they may feel ashamed of, but they're not able to, like, express it. But definitely these are some like, telltale signs. And of course, the general isolation, not able to communicate directly, like not understanding or struggling to understand social cues. That all comes along with it. Yeah.
I know I said last question, but I'm greedy. But I mean, it's absolutely connected, which is why I'm asking. Now, let's say that there's a parent or somebody who observes some of these signs. Again, unfortunately, we are in an environment where it's not necessary that a given city or town will have that kind of professional and medical infrastructure available. Further, perpetuated by a situation where there are enough people claiming to be X, Y, and Z, but they actually don't know what they're doing. Whom shall people go to?
Yeah, so the question that you brought up, the sentence that you said was very valid, is that a lot of people in today's world are claiming to be something that they're not, because there are a lot of there are a lot of steps that one has to go through to actually become someone qualified enough to, screen someone for autism or for Down syndrome or for whatever. Usually now that, like, in I mean, yeah, city wise, if you're talking, yeah, in tier 2 cities it's not easy. But if you talk about tier 1 cities, we have early detection screening tools available nowadays, where the infant can be diagnosed with a neurodivergence or any other sort of incapability in the womb itself. Up to, I think, within 7 8 months, it can be diagnosed. And so that's, obviously, not everyone can do that, not everyone can afford it. Government is not really doing anything to make sources like this available. So what will tier 2 city people do? So tier 2 city people, it is very important you check the qualifications. That's the only thing you can do. There's psychologists and psychiatrists and special educators and early educators are all available in tier 2 cities now, because there's a huge rise of this need. A lot of people our age are also doing these kind of certifications, are going towards psychology, because I mean, yeah, of course, for some of them, maybe they realize that it's a booming industry, so we might as well get into it and earn money. But for some people, it actually, is maybe something that they want to do, something they want to contribute in the world. And it's a grave need, not just for children, for any age group. We all know that everyone needs a listening ear sometimes, and everyone, and a lot of times, a lot of, like, people maybe your age, Karthik, maybe they go undiagnosed a lot of times. And because throughout their life they're told that, "Arey, ye thoda sa alag hai, thoda sa alag hai," but actually it's not that. He's definitely a part of the spectrum, maybe. And he was just never diagnosed, because the parents just never knew that this was a thing. But now that it's available, I would urge everybody, all the parents, who the signs that we told, that look out for it. pay attention to your child. Don't go into the rhythm of oh nanny के साथ छोड़ देते हैं, because today nowadays parents are believing that उनको independent बनाने के लिए we have to leave them. We cannot keep them with us. They need to be on their feet as soon as possible. No, please. The first 2 years is very crucial. You have to keep an eye on them. Have to the lot of signs out there. Trust me, lot of signs out there. All you have to do is look for it. And the moment you do, the first things that you have to check out is always look for qualifications. A proper psychiatrist and psychologist will always have their publications, papers, degrees, all public. You don't have to go and ask them. You don't have to look. You don't have to sleuth around the internet to look for it. It will always be public. Yes, like maybe the fees is a bit high. It's but there are also like mental health professionals nowadays that do or take cases like this, like take cases just to help them, pro bono, all these things are also there. So use them to your use them to your benefit. Do not class us with our age. it I know parents will think, oh ये तो हमसे छोटी है, ये क्या ही हमारे बच्चे को class करेगी, but no, it's not, it does not work that way. In your aspect, we know better. We have studied it. We know what to do. We know how to figure it out. So give us a chance, because trust me, we are the people our age. We are trying to make it better. It's not good. It's really very bad. People are faking it. People are saying मैं counseling psychologist बन चुकी हूँ, ये कोर्स करके मैं 6 month का क्रैश कोर्स करके क्लिनिकल साइकोलॉजिस्ट बन चुकी हूँ, निमहांस में क्या internship करके I have become some sort of certification. No, do not believe all of that. Please go and read about these things. If you are having a doubt, use the internet to your use chat gpt to your benefit. Instead of asking them to give weird responses, use it to your benefit. Ask them ki, what are the specific qualifications for a doctor or for a mental health professional to screen my child properly, and you get your answers. It's all in front of you. All you have to do is be look and be sensitive and not judge at the first attempt itself.
Well, thank you for that very, very detailed answer. And the last point you made, I couldn't personally agree with it more. In fact, again, it's a conditioning thing. A certain generation of us Indians has the absolutely opposite yardstick of judging and determining what medical professional, especially, they'll go to, which is, oh, itna experience hoga. I'm sorry to sound this way, but like I said, I'm not a therapist. I don't have to be politically correct. In most of the time, scenarios, you are okay going to someone who's totally cuckoo and senile. And you'll have surgery done by that individual, but not go to a young professional who is conversant, who's current, and all of those things, and most importantly, all there physically and mentally. So it's a huge irony. But yeah, and on that wonderfully positive and optimistic note, do you guys have a little surprise for us?
Yes, we wanted to end with a nice song. We thought it's too serious now, so let's lighten up the mood now. There is a song called The Climb by Miley Cyrus. So Raina and I are going to sing that.
Nishtha, you are most welcome to join. Okay, Dia, you can start.
Every step I'm taking,
every move I make feels
lost with no direction.
My faith is shaking,
but I gotta keep trying.
Gotta keep my head high.
There's always gonna be another mountain.
I'm always gonna wanna make it move.
Always gonna be an uphill battle.
Sometimes I'm gonna have to lose.
And about how fast I get there.
Ain't about what's waiting on the other side.
It's the climb. Yeah.
Wow. Well done. Dia, you're very good, but Raina is much, much better.
There's no comparison. She's actually she's Indian classical singer. So her forte is actually that. I'm more, I've been training in Western classical and Western since a long time. But yeah,
well,
no comparisons.
Guys, thank you so, so very much. I have two parting thoughts that I sort of scribbled lest I forget in my old age, which Nishta very subtly reminded me of. Uh, so, no, but because the three of you are young, there is a certain lightness that you bring to this very heavy and dense realm. And I think that's very, very important. And the other thing, of course, is that this whole thing of the power of three is something that Western and Indian philosophy for time immemorial has explored, acknowledged, and written about. Third time's a charm, Tisri bar, there are Urdu ghazals on it. So there's something happening here. We know it, of course, now from pretty much every Zoya and Farhan production also. There's something to this whole thing. So all the very best. Thank you for the wonderful work that the three of you do and are doing. We wish you all the best and great conversation. Very, very important and insightful.
Thank you so much, Karthik, for giving us your platform to talk about these things. I think it's been very big pending for us to talk about these things, not just through Mindful Years, but also through other people's platforms. And we really love the collaboration. Your questions were very spot on, made us think a lot, made us sweat a bit. But I guess that's the point of this conversation. It cannot be easy.
I know.
It makes
I'm
you sweat.
sorry. This tends to happen to me. I can't. I do make a structure, but I invariably deviate from it because my old and aging mind only thinks last minute.
Good. We appreciate your last minute thinking because it makes us sweat, it makes us think, and it gives a more authentic answer to you rather than a very scripted and monotonous answer that you do this, you do that.
Absolutely. But the fact that you acknowledge that is because of your youth and age. If there was somebody of my generation across me, they would have said, "What the hell have you done? This was not what was decided." So,
yep.
Yeah.
They would be having PR training after this that you cannot say these kind of things.
All right, guys. Take care. Thanks.
Thank you.
Much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good